For him, it was the middle of the workday, about 9 p.m. President Castro, it has been 25 years since you and I sat like this. You are no longer smoking?
I think I smoked at that time. I've not been smoking for 17 years now. But you don't look like 25 years have passed. You look exactly the same.
You are saying this so I will not ask tough questions.
No, of course not. But partly, yes, of course. But the difficult questions will come anyway.
Thank you. Thank you. Also, you're not wearing a uniform now. You wear suits.
Barbara, precisely in order to seduce you and for you to be kind to me, to have pity on me.
I see. Okay. We will see. I want to talk about relations between our country today. The U.S. has called Cuba a terrorist state. After September 11th, you offered your condolences to the United States. You criticized the attacks. You did not oppose the U.S. use of Guantanamo as a prison. But the U.S. State Department says that your government has deliberately tried to sabotage the U.S.'s anti-terrorist efforts by providing false leads. And they have stated that Cuba is developing biological weapons. Two very strong accusations against your country.
The only thing I can tell you about that, in real terms, is that all those accusations are absolute lies. It is not that it is a false version, but absolute lies. I mean, they become an insult against the intelligence of any person to try to deceive them like that. Because a small nation like ours would have to be absolutely insane. Being so close to the most powerful country in the world, it would be so insane for such a country to commit any terrorist acts against the United States. The historical truth is that thousands and thousands of terrorist actions have been conducted against our country. Sabotages, plans, attempts against my life, and plans to have caused thousands of casualties. And there is not one case. There is not one case of one American who has died of the result of some action on the part of Cuba against the United States. That has not happened in 43 years. We are willing to invite the international scientific community to come here and take a look at whatever at those places where hypothetically we are conducting such research. We would have to be mad out of our minds to try to manufacture the weapon.
President Castro, you oppose an attack against Iraq, yes?
I am not the only one.
In your view, is Saddam Hussein a good leader for the people of Iraq?
Almost on the eve of an announced war, I wonder, what sense does it make for me to play the judge and issue my views about this in one sense or another one? I think I would be pouring oil on the flame.
It was obvious to us that President Castro did not want to directly challenge President Bush, especially while support is building in Congress to further relax the restrictions on American trade and travel. But President Bush has said that he will veto all attempts to ease the sanctions unless, he says, you allow opposition parties to organize and to speak, that you release political prisoners, and most important, that you have free elections monitored by objective outside observers. Now, you want the sanctions lifted. Is there anything that you can say or do that can change this?
It is not my purpose to use this interview to make criticisms or to attack President Bush. I think we should all dispense with the lies and rhetoric and abide by reasoning. The last time when he made a number of very insulting statements against us, he made all those accusations and others. It was after his speech on May 20th in Miami.
For 43 years, every election in Cuba has been a fraud and a sham. To make them free and fair, they must give opposition candidates the freedom to organize, assemble, and speak. Viva Cuba Libre!
I think he was very ill-advised to make that speech.
Somos un país independiente.
We are an independent nation. We are very sensitive to our rights, and we are very sensitive to the respect our dignity deserves.
But what it seems to boil down to is freedom, freedom of expression. People in your own country have asked for more democracy, but you have never allowed anyone to run opposite you. So what we keep talking about is freedom, is more openness.
Barbara, is this your statement or is this President Bush's statement? Can I ask you any questions?
Sure.
You have millions of questions. You have more questions than the U.S. Air Force has missiles.
You have good answers.
I tell you, Barbara, now I'd like to say this. Look, is it that in those countries with 25% of the people or 10% of the people are absolute illiterates, can you speak of freedom there? Is it possible for them to be free? Don't you need some education to do that? Don't you need some culture? Without culture and without knowledge, there is no possibility to attain freedom.
For Castro, freedom starts with education. And if literacy alone were the yardstick, Cuba would rank as one of the freest nations on earth. The literacy rate is 96%. This is a teachers' college in Havana, where the emphasis is on training for high school classrooms, where Castro says he wants his best and his brightest. Our visit here had little advance notice. The welcome these students gave him, the almost overwhelming emotion we saw on campus, seemed spontaneous. In my country, there are complaints that teachers are underpaid. In your country, maybe bellboys in hotels make more than teachers because they are paid in dollars and not pesos. Does that bother you?
Well, one would dream to reach heaven, you know. We would like to pay the best of salaries to our teachers. But let's talk without comparing it to the tourist industry. We have tried, though, for them to have the best that we can afford. But if the country had 10,000 teachers, we could raise their wages and it would be easier. But then we have 200,000 teachers. It would be easier to pay higher wages to 20,000 people than it is to pay to 200,000. The people who sacrifice the most, they are the teachers.
What was your own favorite subject when you were a child?
History.
History?
History, yes.
Castro's passion for history was part of his revolutionary manifesto. His creed became, "History will absolve me." He says his love of the subject came to him early.
History brought more stories, you know. I always loved the stories. You know, first the sacred history and the creation of the universe, Adam and Eve, and the forbidden apple, and then Noah's Ark and the universe of... I love that. That I began learning in first grade. I liked that better than math then. Geography, yes, I liked it also because it meant like touring the world, you know, and there was no subject about the revolution. I wasn't taught about that in school.
No, then. Yeah, history will absolve me. I remember that.
Sacred history will also absolve me.
When 2020 returns, Barbara Walters' exclusive interview with Fidel Castro continues after a brief commercial, a concept completely foreign to Castro.
Are we going to have advertising in the interviews? Are you going to
commercials in the interviews? Yes, we are a capitalist country.
Next,